So would you consider it to be UX UI or UI UX?
Technically, UX will be the first, the lower hanging fruit,
Right.
which needs to be addressed while creating something. When I was working with Karim Rashid in New York, so he essentially was a product designer, and he used to design a lot of graphics. We did a lot of campaigns for Pepsi. I was a part of the team that designed the Temptation Resort in Cancun.
Right.
And that's where I realized that the disciplines are not that important as the whole process is, or the whole aspect is.
Understand your perspective of how the Indian market has evolved over time and where do you see it going?
So from an economy perspective, Indian economy is booming, and understanding from a technology perspective, we are booming. We are the world's best technology users is what I believe, and we are targeting the $10 trillion economy
Yes.
In the coming future.
Welcome to our Why Involved podcast. Today we are honored to have with us a prolific designer, global entrepreneur and visionary leader, Dhruva Paknikar, the founder and CEO of Dominix Global Design, the world's best young design company specializing in industrial, communication, strategy, digital as well as space design. Dhruva's incredible journey spans prestigious institutions like MIT and Strata École de Design, collaborations with icons like Karim Rashid, and impactful work with global brands like IKEA and Pepsi. Having designed over 500 brands and products, many of which are award-winning, his influence has left an indelible mark on international markets. He's not just a designer, but a mentor, guiding over 100 startups, speaking at global forums, as well as empowering innovations through initiatives like Abled Labs, the world's first specially abled-centric NGO. Welcome, Dhruv. Welcome to our Why Involved podcast. We have called you for your expertise on your design thinking, your expertise in business, as well as different use cases that you can put some insights. I just wanted to ask you about, you have worked with multiple different industries.
Right.
And over a period of at least more than a decade, I assume, along with your education in design as well. And now you're moving towards a business role. So how do you actually envision multiple design or design disciplines which can be eventually either merged together, or do you see them actually being as standalone design disciplines itself?
So from where I see it, let me give you a context of my education. So I am a graduate of product design, and I did product design from MIT Institute of Design. And then I moved to France at an institute called Strata École de Design, where I majored into brand and business design.
Okay.
So at that time, UX, UI, those courses were not available, as that field was not into a good form and shape, right? So at that time, I did some brand business design major there. I took some other courses as well in human-computer interactions and all these things. So there I learned that the base of design, any design discipline for that matter, is design thinking. Right. So the thought process that goes behind anything in design world is the same, is the core. So that's where I realized that the core is very important to understand and to apply and to practice as the main thing. Right. Technologies will change, disciplines will change. Disciplines will merge in the coming future. Here in India, when we were talking about design, design is usually talked in disciplinary format. So
Correct.
Product design is different, automobile design is different, maybe a brand and business design is different, UI UX is different. So that is how design, and of course they have to do it because it's an education, this thing.
Of course.
It's backed by education formats. And if they start teaching everything, it won't be completed in the designated years that is there. So it's an obvious choice to disintegrate all these things and then disciplinize it and try to teach the focus discipline which is there. Of course, there when you are looking for a job or something like that, the focus thing works because when you are working in a big corporate, they already have a set of people heading those disciplines, and then it seems down. But in the coming future, with the disruption of AI, with the disruption of the skill set based training that we get, the disciplines are blurring. Right. So let me give you a very recent example of any automobile company which is there right now. So if you see automobile companies back in maybe 1950s or maybe 2000s, were very focused on the engines,
Right.
and the delivery and mechanisms of the engines. Since 2000, 2005, the technology aspect started to slightly coming, the power steering, the power windows, the power mirrors, all these things started coming. So it became a electromechanical kind of a thing. So it was hardcore automobile engineering
Right.
kind of a thing, and then styling was obviously another aspect. But it started to develop into an electromechanical thing. So electronics started to play a very important role as you went from like 2005 to 2015. From 2010-15 onwards, electronics started to play a major role in automobile.
Right.
If you see these days, every automobile company is transforming itself into a electric kind of a thing, or maybe hydrogen fuel cells. But the base now is the electronics part of it. The mechanical base is now not that strong as it was in 2005 or maybe 1950s. So from the industrial revolution to the technical revolution, through the technical revolution, now it is a car essentially is a product.
Right.
It is not an automobile. It is a product. It is something to do with the human. Every aspect of the car is now centered to the human.
Right.
So the recent example of Jaguar, many people hated the transformation, are hating the transformation that they have done. I personally, I do hate that transformation because I'm a hardcore automobile guy. I'm
Right.
about the engine guy. But if you really look into that, the aspect of the thought process, essentially every automobile company is now a lifestyle company.
Yeah.
Right? Unless until it's for racing and for all these things. But it has that lifestyle aspect of it. People are now not looking to just move from here to there. They are now looking to enjoy the rides. They are now looking to experience the rides. Right? So that experiential context is a huge context, and that is one of the reasons Jaguar has moved towards an experiential kind of a kind of design than just having a fast path.
Right.
Of course, it has its pros and cons and all these things, but essentially every single vertical that is there, every single paradigm that is there is going to shift in terms of the blurring of the discipline. And that's what I saw when I was working with Karim Rashid in New York. So he essentially was a product designer, and he used to design a lot of graphics. We did a lot of campaigns for Pepsi. I was a part of the team that designed the Temptation Resort in Cancun. So every product was designed by us. The whole space was designed by us. The experience of the people were designed by us.
Right.
And that's where I realized that the disciplines are not that important as the whole process is, or the whole aspect is.
But speaking of these design disciplines, like they have been evolving over multiple decades. Let's say if we speak about, as you said, automobile, started off way before, but 1950s, let's say, picked up, and now we have, in every 5 years, we have certain different new innovations that are coming in, and eventually it seeps into the consumer
Right.
aspect of it. But because of the time that people are putting into it, it actually leads to the users also adopting it and getting comfortable with it.
Right.
But now if we are going to be, let's say, if we are seeing that certain design disciplines are getting merged together, and of course because of the advent of AI, that this pace is actually going to be very fast now.
Right.
So from a user's perspective, do you think that maybe us designers, we are trying to head towards more of disruption rather than also losing the focus on, maybe we should also think about the sustainability part of it?
Right. So sustainability is a different criteria altogether. What I believe is everything should be sustainable. So buildings that were built 100 years old and they're still functioning in a few parts of the world are sustainable is what I believe.
Yeah.
Right. It is not just about using the sustainable materials. It's not just about using the sustainable things. It is about the long-lastingness of the things as well,
Yeah.
the shelf life of the things.
Yeah.
So, because of the economy and because of the capitalism aspect of it, we are in a world where fast going goods, FMCG, fast moving items
Right.
are preferred than long lasting things, right? So that is one of the reasons. So for example, smartwatch versus mechanical
Correct.
watch. So mechanical watch goes for thousands of years, maybe perpetual,
Yeah.
right? If kept well. Whereas a smartwatch, the life is now a year or so. That's it. So those shifts are also affecting the sustainability part of it.
Yeah.
So to answer your sustainability question, that is always that should be always in the core. From a design thinking perspective, design thinking doesn't deal with any vertical for that matter. It deals essentially with the human, right?
Right.
So what I believe is design thinking is, or maybe designing anything, should have three main aspects. One is the function of it, the form of it, and the empathy.
Right.
So the empathy part really deals with the human that we are designing it for.
Yeah.
And the more people we are designing it for, the more combinations and the permutations happen. And of course, the function and the forms are developed upon the set of the users, which
Yeah.
is there. So anything that you develop to solve a problem, or essentially develop with these three pillars as cores, will result into a great design. So having these thought processes in mind, if you design anything, sustainability will take care of itself.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, there are materials, more things which
Of
are
course.
nature friendly and which will give you a lot of positive things for the environment. Of course, but the core value of sustainability will always lie in the lasting of the.
So, like sustainability, of course, I was also talking about the material aspect of it, but I'm also trying to get to the point because I would genuinely love to understand your insights on it. That right now you spoke about function, form, and empathy.
Yeah.
So, of course, because of the Industrial Revolution, we're taking care of the function part of it.
Right.
We have everything set. We have all of the particular industry belts and everything. We have everything there. Empathy also debatable, but let's not go there.
Right.
The form aspect of it, of course, there are multiple views in the design world right now. Is that earlier, let's say a few centuries back or a few decades back at least, everything that we tried to design, we tried to put a little bit of a human touch into it. Now, what is happening is that because it's industrial, because it has to be in a certain structure, there is no human touch to it, and everything looks the same, everything feels the same, and that sort of leads to a certain era or a certain reality which we are living in right now, where all of the buildings look the same, all of the, let's say if you're walking on a road, you actually see the pillars on the road, even those are the same. So even if I move from one city to the other, even the differentiation between cities is in there.
Right.
But because you've lived in France, you've studied in France, and I'm assuming you've also traveled around in Europe, if you can just talk about how different cities in Europe, they do feel different because the building structures are different. Even if the function of the building is still the same, because the form is different, you understand, okay, maybe now I'm in Paris, I'm over there, I'm in Madrid, or I'm in Amsterdam or something. Or even in India, if you consider, Rajasthan looks different, Tamil Nadu looks different, Maharashtra looks different. So do you think now, over a period of time, are we losing out on all of these intricacies? And is it leading to us human beings also ending up being very minimal and, for the lack of a better word, emotionless?
Okay, so to address your first part of the question, I've been to a lot of cities. So I love going to cities and exploring them. In Europe, a lot of cities I've seen are maybe 600, 700 years old. to a minimum.
Yeah.
And the aesthetic part of it. So what I believe is maximalism was the aesthetic part back then. One reason why maybe those parts were taken care of was the time to build that building. So if you go to Rome, once you enter Rome, you'll understand that this is really not built in a day.
Yeah.
It took centuries to form what it is right now, right? So every detail is carved out, every corner is an art piece. Okay, so if you look from an art perspective, you'll find art in every corner of Europe.
Yeah.
Right. Similarly, in Rajasthan, you'll find that. Similarly, in everywhere, few hundred years back, that was the aspect, because the people knew that this building, if I'm creating this building, this will last for 100 years, maybe 200, 300 years, maybe more than that. Right? The time took for the construction of those things also was very, very, very huge compared to what it is right now. Maybe because of population, maybe because of the capitalism that happened, consumption was fast, and that's why economy also go. So what I believe now is the things that we are creating right now, they lack a certain aesthetic sense from that perspective. But if you see, minimalism came in after Industrial Revolution. Because of Industrial Revolution, mass production was possible.
Yeah.
Before then, mass production was not there, so everything was carved out in a different way. Every piece of even furniture was one
of a kind. Yeah.
So that changed due to the mass production cycles. And in those mass production cycles, companies like IKEA became big because they could really produce something for very minimal cost. And cost was one of the biggest barriers. It is still there, and it is always going to be there. So if you say in that perspective, if you see London, central London, the tons or maybe the Queen and all this, people could afford really good housing, could afford really artistic things, and that's where we see right now. But if you see the outskirts of London, back then it was a garbage, right? Because the common people lived. Now, even the common man has a kind of aesthetic chair or aesthetic table in his house because of the mass manufacturing and because the prices are less. So if you change the perspective a little bit, now everyone, art can be now, it's a commodity kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, the detailing and all these things are lost, but now it is spread more than it was before.
That's a really positive way of looking at it, actually.
Of course, but now if we really want to go ahead from this, we have a huge opportunity in digital space.
Yes.
Right? There is metaverse, there is any digital interface, surface, and all these things, where we have no bounds of manufacturing. Right? And we can see and visualize anything what we want. Right? So if you see the new interfaces, those are very engaging. I'm not a big fan of the flat UI and flat surfaces. I am a more dynamic kind of a guy. I need depth in it, because essentially, if you're creating something which can have depth and not have depth in it.
Yeah.
So Google, came up with the material design kind of a thing where they really actually have had lights and everything put on their UIs. And then they actually created those kind of UI interfaces in their whole suite. So there is a lot of opportunity now to really go into art, to really create a world where there is no bound. So it is commoditized as well as it is it can be mass produced as it can be integrated. Yeah. So maybe this is an opportunity for us. So I guess it's now the upper graph of the sign.
Probably like a perspective change can help us, definitely. Speaking of, let's say, material UI or component aspect of it, at Y Technologies we have Raghu, which we have the Figma design kit, where we have certain components which are also backed by React-based coding. And what we are planning to do is sort of speed up the process of actually bringing UI screens to life.
Right.
Of course, now that we're speaking about making sure that we have a positive or optimistic perspective to all of this, is there any way that you think maybe we can merge certain things, such as, of course, we have the design systems, be it Google, be it Apple, be it Raghu. We have all of these. These are only in the digital space. So now that you were talking about merging design disciplines, and I know that you work, let's say, in commercials, you work for architecture, there are multiple different design disciplines that you work for. So is there any way of having a design system for different disciplines, where eventually there comes a point where we as designers will be merging certain things and we can play our small part in actually helping these design disciplines together?
This is a good question. This is a good insight on having systems there. So it is very decentralized right now. So all the systems are not compatible with each other. So the compatibility really needs to take care. Maybe Android has done a wonderful job in the compatibility basis. So every interface Android has touched, they have really, but then they lack the sophistication of an iOS type of a thing. So that is a very good challenge which is there in the front of the designers, which are now evolving. So essentially, I believe that everyone is a designer. Any coder, anyone who wants to create something, who wants to solve a problem, is a designer. So we are creators at the end of the day. The human race is a creator, and the knowledge that everyone should get should be should be aligned with the thought process that you shared right now, and that's the real challenge in front of the world right now. So here in India, most of the people lack in that knowledge, and that is the only thing. So how to look at a thing, how to look at art, how to watch a movie, right? Those things need to be really taught in the education is what I believe, to change all these things and make people more creative, more inclined towards really changing things. We need to teach people how to do such things or how to question these things at the end of the day. So if you are interested enough, you will probably change, right? So that is the key things that we need to address while putting in this perspective that you want. That is the key.
Definitely. So speaking of, you speak a lot about the Indian market or Indian society and stuff. So do you see, or I would just want to know, just understand your perspective. I don't really have a question over here. I just want to understand your perspective of how the Indian market has evolved over time and where do you see it going?
So if you see the global economies at a very large glance, so maybe 200, 300, 500 years. First there was the Greek economy which flourished, and then those signs, there is always a sign that there's always a curve where the economy starts to flourish, it reaches its peak, and then it slowly fades out at a certain point, at a certain level. Then there were Romans, Egyptians, all these people. Egyptians before maybe. Then there was the British government which was there, or the British emperors. Then there is US, which the economy. Now there is maybe BRICS, where the economy is this. Maybe China, India, these economies are now in a on that upgoing curve. So from an economy perspective, Indian economy is booming, and we are targeting the $10 trillion economy in the coming future. So things will be changing rapidly. Things will be, people will be addressing things rapidly. If you see the past generation, they were trained at something. They did that thing for a long time, for maybe 40, 50 years. They did the same thing, upgraded themselves. Now we have to reinvent ourselves maybe 5, 6, 7 times throughout our career, maybe more, right? The next generations they maybe need to reinvent themselves every year, maybe.
Yeah.
If not a month. But yes, so that kind of a growth rate Indian economy has, and because of that Indian economy, all these things will also flourish. People will reinvent, people will see those perspectives, and we will be in a place where all the things will start making sense. But at the same time, if we don't, as I said earlier, if we don't educate people in the cores of things, what really is art, what really is science, what really is design, what really is human-centric approach, then it will be much more worse than what it will be.
Yeah.
So having said that, the from an economy perspective is booming, from a understanding, from a technology perspective we are booming. We are the world's best technology users is what I believe, because of the youth which is there. The adaptability is fast. The people are really getting hands-on experiences in all the things. So at a later stage, experience is something that will count the most.
Definitely.
The other status quo barriers will be losing it. So experience and experience design will be the most essential aspect of all these things.
So speaking of the young generation or the young Indians, do you have any message to any aspiring designers or anybody who actually wants to even understand even a little bit of design?
So first I like to tell everyone that please understand that everyone is a designer at a certain stage. The way you solve a problem, if you have empathy in it, you will do a better job. In any case, in any scenario, may it be at home. So I always tell that if you are arguing with someone, right, there is a problem. So even solving that problem, if you have empathy towards that person, the result of the solving of that problem is way better than from not having the empathy, right?
That's really beautiful, actually.
That is design essentially. Yeah. That is design. There is a problem statement. There is empathy. There is form and space, of course.
Right.
And then you solve that problem. So essentially, everyone is a designer. But people who want to pursue their careers as designers, as maybe UI designers or product designers, they need to understand that skill set can be taught, but thought process should be learned.
Right.
So the thought process is something that they need to concentrate upon. They need to ask questions, a lot of questions. They need to be very intrusive. They need to be very. So designers are usually adamant on their things because they create something and it's like a baby. That should not be the case, and that's what I learned at Karim Rashid's. So I was very possessive about the thing that I made, and he was like, the first thing that you need to understand is, once you have created it, you have to go 10 steps back, criticize it, and that's where you'll realize that there is a possibility of that design circle happening again. So that is something that I will obviously tell the next gen designers. World is changing super fast. We'll get a lot to learn from even the young people. I usually do get to learn a lot from my colleagues, my interns, and all these people, and it's been a crazy thing.
I just want you to talk about the impact of design and how from the start of your journey, how it started off, and now even the quantity which is increasing, probably the responsibility is increasing. So
from my career perspective, of course I started small, just a couple of people, coming together, colleagues coming together to create something which a set of users can use. So in the first couple of years of my career, we didn't get a chance to create something which is for a larger audience.
Okay.
We got niche projects, of course, because of the limitations of our network, limitations of our skill sets maybe. But we did, I believe that we did a good job in catering those sets of people. As we grew as a company, as we grew over the verticals, as we grew the disciplines which are there, now we are creating things which millions of people will come and experience.
Yeah.
So for example, we got a chance to design the kinetic Luna, which is there, which now lakhs of people are buying, right? And for that, the target audience was the rural India, which is a huge chunk of India. And that chunk of India, understanding that chunk of India, what they actually do, we interviewed more than 5,000, 6,000 people, going from town to town, talking with them, seeing what their problem is. So there are very simple problems that in a small village in India, there are no mechanics, right? Even the puncture, if there is a puncture, which usually is on Indian roads, those punctures, resolving those punctures, the skill sets of those people were of bicycles and not bikes, right? So essentially, we had the tires in such a way which had tubes, which had a kind of a different frame which could be removed like a cycle, right? So these insights were very important to actually create the vehicle to address that market. And as we are growing, we are creating things which so we are creating spaces where maybe 20,000, 30,000 people will come daily. We are creating something in Bangalore where a footfall of around 50, 60,000 people daily will be there. So addressing those huge chunks has taught us a lot in terms of understanding the customer at a mass scale. Right? On the contrary, we have already devised, curated, created a set of principles of psychology which help us to address those masses. So mass psychology, industrial psychology is something is very close to design, and we leverage that to actually solve these kind of problems. So now if you say going towards maybe a bigger impact, a global impact kind of a design team, we are learning more and more about humans at the end of the day, and the world is changing so fast that those learnings that we had in the past 1 year is now changing into something different.
Right.
So that is the beauty of this business, is what I believe. That is the beauty of actually designers thinking and doing something. That is the crux of the story that I've been trying. I'm looking forward to it, exploring more geographies, exploring more continents, if I may. So that's what I'm heading.
Great. So would you like to actually elaborate a bit on how different is, let's say, user interface design, user experience design, and product design?
Yeah. So as I told earlier, that design thinking thought process is core and is same everywhere. The outcomes of these three things that you mentioned are completely different. So user experience design deals, as it suggests, it deals with the user experience.
Right.
So again, user is the central part of it. So how a person will navigate something, how a person will look at something, how a person will. So from a very, very basic perspective, if you just go on to Apple website and check, there is a CTA, call to action, on everything which is there. It gives a clear sense of buying it. That's how they increase their sales. So user experience directly results in increase of sales. Right. So from that perspective, if you see, the user experience is a very complex, addressing user experience is a very complex system where you actually study the users, know their preferences, know their trends, and know their languages, build an architecture around that into an interface.
Yeah.
Right. So that is where the user interface starts coming in. Of course, it's a overlapping set.
Right.
It's not two different things completely, but user interface deals more with the user's sensorial aspect and the offerings of the interface which is there.
Right.
So people think about UI UX as just app design or website design, but interfaces are everywhere. So even if you go to a park, there is an interface. Of course, if you add digital, if you transform it digitally, it becomes a digital interface.
Right.
But interface is something which is there around us. Even the shirt is an interface for me.
Right.
Anything which touches me is an interface. Everything which you see, which I see, is an interface, and that's how I get the knowledge of the world. Right. So essentially, designing an interface takes a lot of sensorial aspects, and the senses are looped in, not just the thought processes, not just the habits and all these things. The sensorial aspect of it is very important while creating the UI or the user interface part of it. As I mentioned earlier, the digital transformation is heavy these days, and it gives us a different dimension altogether to interact with the world. So there are huge screens instead of walls now, which can give you a different dimension. So we are creating a restaurant where every surface is a screen, and you are dining in that restaurant. So if you have some Arabic food, you will be sitting in some desert in the Middle East. If you are having some sea food, you'll be sitting in Japan and something like that. And that experience, the temperature experience, all the senses will be there. So these kind of experiences are the user interface part of things, and actually navigating through these things is the experience part of it. Where product is a product, or if I may say physical product, deals more with the ergonomics part of it. When it comes to the user, deals with the form and the what we call it the CMF, the color, material, finish part of it, which is the half agenda. And the other half agenda, which is the manufacturing of it, how to create that stuff, what will be the processes of manufacturing, what will be the cost which is implemented in that, how to create the manufacturing process part of it. And now these things are also merging. So every other product is now having an interface. Soon enough, the chairs also will have an interface, some or the other. So this even the thing that we pull and push, that is an interface essentially, but that was a physical kind of an interface. Now it could be digital in the coming future. So these things are completely different. So you need to understand what thought processes go in that, and how these things will be merging together to essentially to create experiences for the person. And that's where the world is headed. That's where the design community is headed, and that's where we are headed.
So would you consider it to be UX UI or UI UX?
Technically, UX will be the first, the lower hanging fruit,
right,
which needs to be addressed while creating something. Right? Then the interface will come in, but it will start parallelly, because the research process can start parallelly. So maybe UI UX is something that is easier to say.
Yeah.
That's why it is termed like that. But the first lower hanging fruit might be the UX.
Okay, so Dhruva, would you like to say anything to our audience who is watching?
Yes. So as I said earlier, I'll frame it again. Everyone is creative. Everyone has the knack of solving a problem. Everyone does solve a problem every day, right? So essentially, everyone is a designer. And if you look at the world in a different perspective, if you try to understand different perspectives, if you try to empathize with different people, or sets of people, the masses of people, your world will be much more bigger, and you will be a better person, and you will be a better designer.
Well, thanks a lot. I would definitely love to chat more, but probably we're out of time. But thank you so much. It was really great meeting you. Stay tuned for more podcasts from Why Involve, and follow us on the Why Involve network. Thank you.